Sweet. All right, like you said, I'm Carter. I did go to Rejoice Christian School in Owasso, and at Rejoice we take a Bible class every day, all throughout high school. And for this, when we first started this year, we started with a little mini-series called Is the Bible Reliable? In Bible class, and I just thought it was like the coolest thing we've done in Bible in a long time. And when I was asked to do this, I go, hey, I gotta tell them about what I've learned in the Bible class lately. And I thought it was some cool stuff. And so that's why this is called Why the Bible is Reliable, because sometimes for us Christians, we need to know what we live our lives after. We should at least know it's true. That's how I see it. All right, so I got notes here. All right, so I believe every word in the Bible. I really do. I believe everything in it is true, but just because you believe something sometimes doesn't mean you know it's true for a fact. So if you let's say there's a chair here and the chair's blue, all right, and you guys could tell me, hey, this chair right here, it is blue, and I've never even seen it, and I could be like, hey, everyone tells me it's blue, so I believe that chair that I've never seen is blue. And so when I turn around and I look at it, I could now see that the chair is blue, and I know it's blue. That's what's the difference between knowing and believing. All right, and that's what we're going to do with the Bible just a little bit today. Okay. We're not going to sit here and go through every story in the Bible. I'm going to tell you how it's proven to be right, because we'll be here for a long time. So we're just going to do a little bit, and I hope you guys learn something, and I hope it inspires you like it inspired me. So, everyone knows what a martyr is, right? It's someone who dies for what they believe in. Alright, so Peter was a martyr. He was crucified upside down for believing in Jesus Christ. Paul was a martyr because he was persecuted by the Romans, and he wouldn't stop preaching and telling everyone about Jesus Christ. Those are martyrs because they died for something they believe in. Well, you think they would die for something that they didn't believe in, or would they put their lives at stake for something that might have been true, might have not have been true? If you think about it, these guys, they believed it so hard. It's like they wanted everyone to know so much about Jesus that they were willing to put their lives at stake because they knew that the Jesus and that the whole scheme of God's plans was bigger than their lives. And so, I know if I'm going to put my life on something, I'm going to put my life up for that, I'm not going to do it for something that might be true, might not be true, and I don't know if that's true. No, I'm going to put my life on a lot of stuff even if I know it's true. But these guys, man, they're crazy, and that's how these guys, they know the Bible and what Jesus said was true so much to the fact that they would put their lives on it. What's also cool is all these deaths of the disciples, not one is mentioned in the Bible. Not one book in the Bible mentions any kind of death of Peter or Paul. And I didn't really know this until I started doing research, but the reason why is because the Bible was written before any of them died. They were still alive when the whole Bible was written. And it makes you think that, hey, the Bible was written so closely to where it was, to when the events happened, that it's so accurate and so precise and detailed that, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, he wrote it down right after it happened. Alright, so it's detailed and very factual, is that a word? Yeah. And so, if you take the analogy of a student studying in class, and he's taking notes as a teacher is talking, and he's sitting there taking notes, and then you have another student that doesn't take notes, and then 3 weeks later he tries to remember from class and writes down all the notes before a test. The person sitting in class is going to know his notes will be more accurate than this guy's notes. So John wrote mostly. John and Paul, they wrote a lot of the New Testament, and they wrote it right as the events happened. So you could believe those details, all of even the small details are true. It's not like a story told down past generations, like a tale or something. These guys wrote it down right after it happened. And so, That was the New Testament. A little bit in the Old Testament, as I'm going to show you some archaeological findings we have found in the Old Testament, which I think was super cool. I'm not going to sit here and bore you guys to death, I promise. But who knows the story of Samson? Samson, the big macho guy who, like, a good one. He took a jawbone of like a donkey and he went like, killed like thousands of Philistines, just by himself because he was so strong. God gave him strength. And then one night, the Philistines tricked him and gave him this girl named Delilah. And in the middle of the night, she cut his hair off and he lost all of his strength that God given him. And so then the Philistines attacked him. They gouged his eyes out and tortured him. And anyways, it comes to believe that he came in a temple. And the Philistines brought him into a temple and he rested up against two pillars. And then he cries out to God and he's like, just give me strength one time to kill all the Philistines in this temple. And he pushes the pillars aside and the whole temple comes crashing down on him and all the Philistines and kills more Philistines that day than any day he's ever lived. But what we have found about this is we found two Philistine temples that have been uncovered recently, and one was in Tel Mikni and one in Tel Aviv, which is in Jerusalem. It makes it easier because I don't know where those are. And they're both 21 miles apart from each other, and both of them were Philistine temples, like the one in the story. But both of them shared a very unique design. The roof of these temples were both supported by only two pillars that were 6 feet apart from each other. And both of the pillars that supported the roof were made of wood. And the wood just rested on a stone base. And so what they have found is that a man could easily stand in between two pillars and push. You'd have to be like really, really strong. But it was possible for a man to push these pillars and dislodge them from the stone base, and this would bring down the roof of a temple back in those days. And it goes on to write in the report from the archaeologists, say that the findings match the biblical story perfectly and attest to the plausibility of the account. So the Bible, the story in the Bible and the findings, they match up perfectly. There's no conflictions, no problems. It matches up perfectly. And so there's like a picture of one of the temples they found. As you can see, those are the stone bases right there. Terrible design for a temple, if you ask me. So I thought that was really cool. And the next one is the city of Jericho. We all know what happened in Jericho. We taught the story as we were kids, how they marched around Jericho for 6 days. On the 7th day, they blew their horns, and the walls just came falling down, right? Yeah. We know it? Okay. Well, we have found the city of Jericho, and the first excavation was carried out by a German team in 1907 and in 1909. And what this German team found was a whole bunch of mud bricks around the mound of the city. The city of Jericho was built on a mound, kind of like a hill, and the walls were up on the mound. But then they found a whole bunch of mud bricks around the mound. And it wasn't until the 1950s when Kathleen Kenyon, who was a British archaeologist, she re-excavated the site, and she understood what these mud bricks were. The mud bricks were the old walls of the Jericho. Yeah. And the story in the Bible goes to say that when the wall fell, the Israelites stormed into the city and they burned everything in the city. They destroyed it all by fire. And she goes into her report, which they send in to National Geographic and stuff, is that the destruction was complete. All the floors and walls were blackened or reddened by fire, and every room was filled with fallen bricks, timbers, and household utensils. In most of the rooms, the fallen debris was heavily burnt. So she says that when she re-excavated the site, everything in the city was burnt, just like the Bible says. They went in and burned it. Then they go and say, well, an earthquake might have made the wall fall down. But if you think about it, those walls are massive. And only half the wall fell down. The northern part of the wall did not fall. And so if there was to be an earthquake big enough to make a wall fall down, wouldn't it make at least 1 or 2 buildings inside the wall fall down? No. There was no other damage but the wall when it came crumbling down, except for fire. So earthquake couldn't have done it, because if it was that big enough to knock the wall down, it would have knocked down many more stuff. And then they say, well, there's so many other civilizations around, Jericho, anybody could come in and knock the walls down and burn the city. But if you notice also that the walls were not knocked into the city, okay? Every city they've ever excavated, or from biblical times, all the walls are, they found all the wall pieces inside the city, because when you come with like a battering ram and knock down the wall goes into the city. I mean, you don't knock it down on yourself. It doesn't work that way. It's like the law of physics, you know, knock it that way. Well, this wall was all knocked outside the city, around the city. So an outside force could not have knocked down the wall. And so once again, what we have found is also match up perfectly to the Bible without any conflictions as well. Does anybody know what an ossuary it is? I didn't know either until I started doing this. All right, an ossuary is a bone box. So back in biblical times, for the royalty or for higher positioned families, or wealthy families, they would, when someone died, they would bury them, and then later they would, that's a picture of one, they would dig up their bones and put them in a bone box, which is that. Well, in the 1990, they found an ornate limestone, which is this one, found in Jerusalem. And this appeared to be authentic, and it contained human remains. And an Aramaic inscription on the side of this, on the side of the bone box, it says, Joseph, son of Caiaphas, on this bone box. And inside, what they would do is they would put family members, all their bones, in one bone box, because it's pretty large. And what they did here is they found Joseph, whoever Joseph was, son of Caiaphas, and then they found Caiaphas, the guy, the high priest, when Jesus was killed. They found his bones in there as well. If you know, Caiaphas is the high priest who had Jesus killed. He was like, we hate that dude. Judas betrayed him to Caiaphas, and he persecuted him and ended up crucifying him. So we have actually found the real-life bones of Caiaphas in this bone box, and I think that is just one of the coolest things ever. I mean, we now know that Caiaphas was a real dude, and this dude is one of the few guys who actually lived with Jesus, one of the only guys we've ever found, and I find that like really cool. I don't know what you guys, I find it cool. Alright, last one I got for you guys is, everyone knows the story where Joshua, the sun stands still story. We did a Bible series over it. Well, it's when Joshua has his army out there and he's against the enemy and he's outnumbered, but he says he could win this war if the sun just doesn't set. The sun has to stay up so that the other army doesn't resupply and doesn't, gather up more troops and stuff. So he goes, God, can you please just make the sun stand still for one more day? Don't let night come. And that's exactly what happened. The sun stood still for a whole extra day, and Joshua ended up beating the other enemy. And it's just a really amazing story of God's great power and the faith Joshua had in God. But to also go to more evidence about that, if the sun was to stand still, wouldn't it have other places around the world have experienced the same thing? Well, yeah, of course it would. So we have also found in Babylon, there have been writings on paper and on the walls describing there was a day of twice the normal length. And the Peruvians, they wrote down there was twice the normal time of one day. And Seneca, who was a Roman writer, wrote down that the sun reversed and blotted out the night. Manuscripts found in Egypt described a day that lasted twice as long as a normal day. So we have civilizations all over that side of the globe being like, hey, for some reason the sun just stood still. We don't know. I mean, the sun never set. We have a day twice the normal length. And this evidence, this is proof, in fact, that's saying, that matches up perfectly, even something that big and that great that God did. And that's not even good enough. When the sun stood still on that side, what would happen on the other side of the globe? It would be night. And so we have writings in Mexico from the Aztecs who are really advanced in their writings. They described a day that both the sun and the moon stood shortly after sunrise. So they had a whole day of just a sunrise. And they don't know why either. And then we have the Indians in North America, Omaha Indians, said the sun was caught in a rabbit's trap and was only released just before dawn. Like them, they had a sunrise for a whole day. And it's just, we have all these places and all this proof that these Bible stories, they existed. And I don't know, but that gets me going, and I think that's so cool. And it's just, I feel like it is important to know that the Bible is accurate in what it says and what it records, because many people will try to argue against your faith. There will be, I told you these things, all these examples for two reasons. All right, one is for yourself, and one is for the other people. For one, when I hear this and I read this and I studied this, it gave me like confidence boost. It gives me reassurance, like, wow, this stuff really happened. You know, I'm basing my life off something that I now know is true, and I know is real, and it just gives me confidence in what I believe very much. And then you have it for the other reason, is for others. You know, one day there will be a time when someone will come up to you and ask, hey, how do you know that Bible thing is real? Like, how do you know it's real? Well, you now have a couple even examples of proof, like physical evidence, why it is real. And sometimes people, they need that physical evidence. They don't want to believe in some kind of magic or some kind of spirit. They want the physical proof of something that happened. And here is many physical documents and sites we've uncovered, and it's just, I think, really cool once again. Doing this study, I realized that the Bible is not only a guidebook. It's not only something we need to live our lives off of. Yes, it's all good and it tells great stories, but I feel like after learning all this, it's also a history book. I mean, the Bible tells real stories of real things that happen. I mean, everything in the Bible hasn't been proven to be right. There are many things that haven't been proven, but nothing's been proven wrong of the Bible yet so far. Everything they've attested, because the Bible is the number one attested book in the history of all books. I mean, more questions are asked about it, and every question they've asked, it's never been proven wrong. The Bible wins every time, and it's just super cool how it's like a history book, and it's a book that teaches you and guides you along. And I don't know if you guys know the Casting Crowns song, but it goes like, the word is alive. It cuts like a sword through the darkness with a message of life to the hopeless and afraid. And it breathes life into all who believe. The word is alive. And that is so true, I think. The Bible is like more real and more powerful than you will ever imagine. I mean, history book or guideline or how to live your life, it's all real and true. I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but I can't emphasize it enough, I feel like. And I thought it was super cool. And it's really important for us to know this, I feel like. I feel like if you're a Christian and you don't know that the Bible is true and what it says, and that it's reliable, and you know that you're basing your life off something that's not 100% true, then I feel like you're just wasting it sometimes, wasting it. We need to know, as Christians, these things. We need to know that they're true. And this is just, helps me very much. It gives me confidence, like I said. I'm going to just end it with a Bible verse. It's Isaiah chapter 40, verse 8. And it says, the grass withers and the flowers fall, but the word of our God endures forever. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you for today. Thank you for this Sunday where we could come and worship you. Lord, I pray that at least a couple students got something out of my message tonight. I pray that they listened and they now know that what these stories and what you've said is true and real. And I pray that they will go out and this gives them confidence and to go like out into the week, throughout the week, and spread your word and to just live out your word daily, Lord. Thank you for every one of them that showed up. Youth is a great place, and I can't imagine being anywhere better on a Sunday